Alright, I thought today I would attempt to put together this kit for these really cool daffodils. Now, I have been looking at these kits for, I think, a couple of years. I always have been fascinated by the different plant and flower kits. And I love daffodils. I actually picked up a couple of different, I think 3 different kits for different flowers from this lady. I've never done anything like this. One time, many years ago, I made a super simple kit for some tulips, but this is so much beyond what that was. I'll admit, I'm a little terrified, but we're going to work through this. So this is, like I said, it's for some King Alfred daffodils, and I had initially planned to have some daffodils from my yard to use as a reference today, but that was before the hailstorm we had the other day, and I no longer have daffodils in my yard. So we open the package. We have directions. We have the the printed and laser cut sheet with our parts, and this will make 3 daffodils. We have the wire, and I think we can do this. What I've decided to do, I'm going to stop the camera at this point, and I'm actually going to put one flower together off camera, so I kind of have an idea what I'm doing when I do it in front of the camera. Then I'll come back and we'll put together one together, and hopefully this will all go well. So I'll see you when I get one together and know a little bit more about what I'm doing. But I wanted to be honest with you that I've never done this before. So we're going to learn together today. So I'll be right back. Alright, so we are back, and I have a completed daffodil. Is it perfect? Oh no, far from it. But it, like I said yesterday, which I actually filmed the first part of this video yesterday, and I spent all day yesterday working on this. It just takes a little bit of time, but it takes a lot of time to let your glue dry. So I ended up working on it for a couple of minutes, letting it set, doing other projects, coming back when I had time. I didn't expect this to be perfect because, like I said earlier, I've never done one of these before. I think it looks like a daffodil. I think it's okay. It's not perfect, but I've learned a little bit, and we're going to tackle another one of these on camera, and hopefully it will turn out better, and it will take some of the fear out of the kit for you. So first I thought I'd go over what tools I used, what glue I used, and then we'll move on to, I'll get myself set up and we'll be ready to go. Now I used 2 pair of tweezers. I have just my regular tweezers that I use all the time. I love these tweezers, they're my favorite. I use them some. I didn't use them a whole lot. I used this pair. Let me back the camera up just a little bit. This pair is a pair of locking tweezers, and they have very fine points. I actually found these to be very useful for a couple of different steps. Wire cutters to cut the wire, a knife with a new fresh tip on the blade. I think an X-Acto knife may or may not work better. It might for you. I didn't have fresh blades for my X-Acto knife, and this blade I can just break off, and this knife I'm really used to using because this is the knife I use the most. So use a knife with a nice sharp, I think the sharp tip is the most important part. I used my dental pick a lot. It's one of my favorite tools to use for lots of things, and I used it a lot. Also, the paper, the instruction sheet said to sharpen a dowel. Well, I had this wooden skewer here, and I used this, and it worked out really well for the parts that I needed that for. Another thing that I found very useful was I had this jar lid sitting here. I actually laid my daffodil across this, let me pick it up here, several times when I was letting glue dry so that it wasn't gluing itself to anything. So I think this is really a handy thing to have. So let me get everything out of my way and get ready to do our first flower. Alright, so here we are. We've got our knife. I forgot to mention glue a moment ago. The instruction sheet actually said to use a fast drying clear glue for the paper to wire and fast drying white glue for paper to paper, but she didn't give any examples of what she meant by that. I actually used this Tombow Mono Liquid Glue, Aqua Liquid Glue, for everything yesterday, and it worked really well. I love this glue. It works really well. It has a pen tip. I did apply some parts with a toothpick, but that's what I used for everything. So our first step, and I'm going to do one on camera and one also today at the same time, so I have two more, so I have all three finished at the end of, by the time we're done with the video, so we can put everything in a pot. So the first thing we need to get the stamen. A trick I learned yesterday, because as you can see from this one, this is the one I took out yesterday. I actually lost 2 tips to my stamen. I tore it. I learned very quickly that the best way to do this, let me see if I can get, if I remember to go down and then remember to come back up when I get ready to. If I go to the back, it's a little easier to see where I'm free at. That one is free. For some reason I had a lot more trouble, I'll show you the front, I had a lot more trouble figuring out where I needed to release from on the front side. The back, I was able to see, okay, there's a break in the cut right there. And this is why we need a really sharp knife, because these are really, really tiny, and this paper is really fragile. So, I'm hoping you're seeing, I'm trying to, and I think I just tore it. Okay, well, we only lost 1 point off the stamen this time. I found that it didn't really matter on that. Come on, come free. I'm gonna have to move it where I can actually see it, sorry. I know, I get complaints when you can't see everything, but I have to be able to see this part. There we go. Alright, so we only lost 1 point on our stamen this time. That's not really as big a deal as it seems. Alright, now we need to cut this approximately in half. It said to cut the wire into approximately 3-inch pieces. Now, something I noticed yesterday, every time I went to put anything onto the wire, was the holes that are provided in the laser cutting are really not big enough for the wire in the kit. So I found if I did that, it helped a little bit. I'll move this down just a little bit, not very far. We only want to go down about 1/8 of an inch. Alright, now I want to flatten this out. And there may very well be a better way to do this. I'm just doing it the way that I figured worked for me. Now, we need glue, and for this application I'm actually going to put a drop of glue right there. And then we need to let this glue dry. So I'm going to put a nice bit of glue on both sides. I found I really needed glue on both sides. There. Now that needs to dry. When that glue is dry, I'll be back. Alright, now that this glue is set up, it's not totally dry, but it's dry enough to work with. We need to gently pull up our stamens and put a drop of glue And what this is going to do is cover up that wire. And just use your fingers and, whoops, sorry, not under camera. And just pull them up, just gently work with them until they stay up over that wire. A little more glue because I think I wiped all the glue off. That's better. So now that little bit of glue needs to dry, and then I'll be back. Alright, so next we're going to work with the trumpet. That's this part right here. That's the center part of your flower. Again, I'm going to go to the back, and this one is held on each side. Right there, and right here. There. So now we have this little piece. We need our pointy stick because we're going to use this to help us make a shape. We're going to use this to kind of support our trumpet. Where's the camera? There's the camera. Now the secret is to get it on here in such a spot that you're just covering up that little tab. Let's see if I can get it to stay on here. The problem I'm having is getting this to stay on over where the camera can see it and that I can still see what I'm doing. It's actually easier to not have the camera in the way. Put just a little bit of glue. Normally I would put this on with a toothpick, but I don't have that many hands right at the moment. Now what I found yesterday worked best for me was to get this like this, get it lined up just the way I wanted it, and take this pair of locking pliers. Oops. Make sure it's under camera. Make sure those two pieces are together and lock my pliers. And now my pliers will hold that until the glue dries. When this glue is dry, I'll be back again. Alright, so hopefully the glue is dry enough to work with now. So we take it off the tweezers, and we've got 3 little tabs down here at the bottom, and we need to kind of pull those out just a little bit. We need to take our stem, and we're going to feed this onto the wire so that it's right up to almost to there. Now I want to put glue right there. Oops. And then when we get this up here, this point, I'm going to put glue on my tray because hopefully I'm staying under camera. I'm trying to stay under camera and still see what I'm doing here. Okay. Pick up some glue with a toothpick. It's a little too much. And I'm trying to work it underneath those tabs. I want to get glue under all 3 of them. And I like to go from one side and then the other. And I'm going to lock the tweezers again and hold this together. And when this glue is dry, I'll be back again. Alright, now this is dried, and I think I want to squeeze it just a little bit more that direction. Get everything all flat. Now we're supposed to very gently, and I found it worked best to use this. We need to kind of bring the trumpet out just a little bit, but gently. There. Now we are going to do the inside. Let's see, do we do both sets? And we're going to do the petals on the stem. So first we want to kind of drag our tool. They used this. I prefer just using the end of my dental pick. I'm not scratching the color on the paper. I'm just putting enough pressure to put just a slight score line, but it makes a much thinner score line. We need to cut these out, and they're held right at that point, and that's on each one. And I like to kind of hold this. I want to support it. You've got to be really careful getting these off of the paper because they are very delicate. There. Now, this is one of the parts that I had a little bit of trouble with because these holes are so small. They're really smaller than the wire. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use my dental pick to kind of make that wire, that hole, just a little bit bigger. And hopefully it won't tear. Oh, that gets it a little bit bigger. Not sure if it's enough, but we'll see. Because on the last set I tore that little connection, trying to get it up the wire. There, that's moving better. And now we need some glue. Make sure my glue is working. I'm just putting out a little bit of glue on my tray because I don't want very much glue here. Now we're going to slide this up. We want to make sure when we put this on that the green part is down. So now we need to do the same thing. I already scored them. So now we take the outside petals. Oops, don't lose my flower on the floor here. And you'll feel when it cuts loose. Okay. Once again, I'm going to use my dental pick, and I'm just going to make that hole just a tiny bit bigger, because that is really, really tiny, and that wire is not that small. It was the outside one that I tore on the flower I did before, and I just tore it again. that tore that easily. So hopefully I can get it up without losing a petal. Still going to try and work it up. Ah! All right, put it on when I get it down here. Since it tore. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have to do this off camera because I have to get it up closer to my face. I'm going to get this on. I'm going to alternate the petals so that those petals fall between these three. And when this glue is dry, I'll be back. All right, so our petals are dry. I did forget to, you're supposed to fold these lengthwise, and I forgot to do that. So we're not going to do that. Our next part is this little, it's called the spathe, and that's that little, well, on a real daffodil, it looks like a little piece of, like, almost tissue paper that's right there. So the first thing we're supposed to do is score lots of lines lengthwise in this, because they are really crinkly looking in real life. And this one is just held on by one, where's the camera? By one little bit, so. And then it says to make this into a partial cone. So to me that means I take this and I just kind of wrap it. For some reason I'm having a lot of trouble holding on these little pieces this morning. Kind of wrap it around and kind of fold it up. Now I've got a little pool of glue off to the side. And I'm going to dip the rounded end into the glue. Trying to keep my glue off to the side because I keep sticking my hand in the glue. I stuck 2 fingers into the super glue a few minutes ago trying to do another project. Alright, and we are going to just kind of put that right like, let's see if I can get a hold of this. Making sure you can see, making sure I can see. Put it there with my tweezers, and then use my thumb to kind of capture it, my thumbnail. And make sure it's kind of vertical, there. Now when that glue is dry, then we can kind of deal with it. So that glue needs to dry again. So now that's glued on, and it just kind of needs to be like that. We need to kind of put our petals out. If I can figure out where they are. We're almost done. Basically, we've got to get the characteristic bend in the top. So I'm going to take my plier or my tweezers, and I'm just going to hold of it up here and just kind of bend it. There. Now. There. It's not perfect, but I think we can recognize it as a daffodil. So now we need to start working on the leaves. So we start with the longest leaf. Well, first we start by scoring the leaves. A little bit. Don't need much on the leaves. Now we start with the middle one, the biggest one. There are 5 leaves on here. 3 go on one side of the flower and 2 go on the other, because the leaves only grow on the sides of a daffodil. Come on, let go. Let go. Okay. So the first one needs to go on, and then this will again need to dry. And on this one, I think what I need to do, oh, and I need to figure out where it's going to go. Putting out some glue on the side, and I'm also going to put out some super glue on the side, because I'm going to use both together. Put it on the other side so I don't mistake which is which. And hopefully up here close enough to my tripod that I don't stick my finger in it again. I stuck my finger in super glue a little while ago. So what we want to do is we want to take our leaf, we want to dip it in the regular glue, and we want this to come up to just about the flower. Not quite. So go right there. Come on, go back where I had you. Ah, and I dropped it. Yes, I'm not going to cut that out. You're going to see me drop this and juggle this, and none of these steps is hard. It's just some of it is a little bit, for me anyway, a little on the awkward side. Now I'm going to grab this just above where I glued it with my tweezers. Now that I've got it held, I'm going to take the super glue and I'm going to put right there. And that, I'm hoping, is going to help hold it where it needs to be. This leaf needs to dry. And when this leaf is dry, we can come back and do some more leaves. Now that that glue is dry, it's time to put on, I'm going to actually try and do 2 leaves this time. I'm going to do the other 2 long ones. We're going to put one of these on each side. So we're going to cut out, oopsie, see if I can do this without tearing the leaf. Get it from under there. That was loose. And I do apologize for not being in the camera all the time. I'm trying to have the camera close enough that you guys can see when I am under camera, but sometimes I just have to have it where I can see it too. So we'll see how this goes. All right, now for these, I don't think I need the super glue. I think I just need the regular glue. Again, I'm going to put a little pool of glue over here, off to the side. And I just want to line these up so they're lined up, pretty much lined up at the bottoms. Put the first one right over this one. And put this one right across from it. And then I'm going to clamp these right where they're glued. There. Now this glue needs to dry, and we'll repeat the process with the 2 shorter leaves. So we're coming down to the end of this project. We're going to put the last 2 leaves on, and then we'll be able to pot all 3 daffodils into a pot that I prepared, that I painted a little while ago. There we go. So once again, I need to get a fresh pool of glue out over to the side. And it's okay if the bottom doesn't look perfect, because I'm going to bury that into the soil in my pot that I'm going to use. So the very bottom will be covered. I don't think I even need to clamp this one. I think this will be fine. Oops. If I can get glue on it. So there we go. This just needs to dry, and then we can put it into a pot. Alright, so we have 3 completed daffodils now. They're not perfect, but you know what? They're fine. I'm not going to worry about it. Off camera, I just took this little container. It's just a little wooden thing that I had. Put some color on it, stuffed a piece of styrofoam, put some glue in the bottom, put some styrofoam in there, and actually used pink builder's foam. And painted the top with some brown craft paint. And now I'm going to cover the top with some just tacky glue. And I have some coffee grounds that I have run through the oven so that they're dried out. And now we are going to plant our plants. So the first thing I want to do is cut off the stems about there. And I am going to hopefully do this without breaking anything. Are you seeing? Whoops, come on. Put it down. There we go. Get all 3 cut off at once. So be sure and check the blog post. I will give you a few more of my thoughts on this kit. There. So there they are. They're potted in their little plant pot. And we have some daffodils. They're not perfect, but you know, that's okay. So, like I said, be sure and check the blog post. The link to that is in the description box below. And I'll talk to you a little bit more about the kit, my thoughts on the kit, and I'll also give you a link so if you want to go over and buy yourself a kit or a different kit. So I will talk to you later. Bye.